NBC7's Nightly Check-In is sponsored by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Flood and Restoration.
We know how.
A local SDG&E worker says he was fired after accusations of racism emerged on social media. Tonight, he's speaking exclusively with NBC7, and he says it's all a misunderstanding. Thank you for joining us for the Nightly Check-In. I'm Catherine Garcia. Emmanuel Cafferty was driving near a Black Lives Matter protest in Poway in his SDG&E truck when he says he noticed somebody following him and trying to get his attention. Later, that person posted a picture of him making what some believed is a white supremacy symbol on Twitter. Cafferty says he had no idea about any white power symbols and was just cracking his knuckles outside his window when the picture was taken of him. Later that day, he says he was notified by SDG&E that he would be suspended pending an investigation, and a few days later, he was fired.
This is the first time in my life I've actually sought counseling. But when you don't know what you did wrong, or you don't think you did anything wrong, and you're dealt such a terrible punishment, it's hard to swallow that.
According to the Anti-Defamation League, the hand sign has been used in recent years by white supremacists as a white power gesture. But a post on the organization's website says that it is also widely used as a sign signifying approval. SDG&E says it conducted a thorough investigation that included multiple interviews and then took appropriate action. A local parent has made an unsettling discovery in her son's yearbook: 2 images of swastikas.
I saw it there, and I think initially shock, because I tried to rationalize why it would be there.
The images are in the yearbook for CPMA, the Creative Performing and Media Arts Middle School in Claremont. The swastikas are in the background of a yearbook picture taken by the yearbook teacher, who also happens to teach a class on the Holocaust and is Jewish. He says the images are part of the class's artwork pinned on a bulletin board. He said it's been taken out of context. The school's principal says he respects the feelings of others, but said children have to be informed about history. We're now hearing from a San Diego police officer who made a daring rescue this weekend when a car with a man and 2 girls inside drove right off Sunset Cliffs. The first call came around 4:30 in the morning on Saturday. The father of 2-year-old twins was threatening suicide by driving off the Coronado Bridge with the girls inside. Well, instead, he drove off Sunset Cliffs. Police K-9 officer Jonathan Weiss was the first to the scene. He used a rope device to get down the cliff and into the water.
We had both girls. I could see one was awake and crying. The other one was pretty lifeless.
Officer Weiss used a backpack to get the girls to safety. Eventually, help arrived. All 3 were pulled out of the water. Both girls and the father are expected to survive. Today, county leaders announced important changes in COVID restrictions in houses of worship. Right now, indoor services can only be held at 25% occupancy or 100 people, whichever is less. Now, outdoor services can be held with no limitations on the number of people as long as there's room for physical distancing. That also applies to weddings and protests. Meanwhile, this Friday, more reopenings are set to take place, including nail salons, massage therapy, and tattoo parlors. Now to the latest coronavirus numbers here. 170 new cases were announced today out of 5,207 tests. That's about a 3% positive test rate. There are now 9,610 total coronavirus cases in San Diego. There have been 320 deaths. Hand sanitizer is a hot commodity to protect against coronavirus, as you know, but a new study suggests most people are not using it properly. Researchers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found rubbing in hand sanitizer for exactly 30 seconds kills COVID-19, but anything less can leave traces of active virus, leaving you vulnerable to infection. So a few things to remember. Always use sanitizers with an alcohol content of 70% or more. Rub in a generous amount for a full 30 seconds and be sure to get between your fingers and on the backs of your hands. Well, calm and cool in the 70s. How long will this nice weather last? Dagmar will join us after a quick break.
NBC7's Nightly Check-In is sponsored by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Flood and Restoration.
Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE. Bill Howe. We know how.
Bill Howe is open to provide customers with repairs and services. We have taken additional measures to keep our customers and technicians safe. We will continue to provide San Diego with trusted, exceptional service.
Because we know how.
Your Tuesday is looking spectacular. So the weather wave that we started off with for this Monday is basically what you're going to continue to enjoy through the majority of this work week. A very stable weather pattern will be in place all the way through at least Friday. So look at your temperatures now for the coast. You're looking at about 70, partly cloudy, some patchy fog, inland valleys, upper 70s, a few clouds, mountains, low 70s, mostly sunny. In the deserts, you will be stuck at around that low 100 mark, a little bit warmer as we head through the work week. But other than that, weather just cooperating so nicely through this work week.
It is a sure sign of summer in San Diego as the Junior Lifeguards program gets underway. And with the pandemic, a lot of changes are being made.
It feels amazing because I've been just inside doing nothing, sitting around, and now being active outside is just awesome.
Go.
The children and teens got an early start this morning with their drills in the sand and the water. The city says its junior lifeguard program is the first of its kind in the state to officially reopen. They say other agencies in California plan to use this program as a model for their aquatic programs. Some of the changes the program had to make include daily temperature checks and face masks.
Well, it's definitely a different program this year. Normally you would see on day one, you'd see 250 kids on the lawn, stretching out, jumping, singing, dancing. We just can't do that this year.
The lifeguard chief says it's safe, and even with all the changes, it's still going to be a really good learning experience for the kids and teenagers. An Egyptian engineer has created a robot that can take coronavirus test samples from patients by remote control. Using the robot to take swab samples from the mouths of patients can, of course, limit the exposure of health professionals to the virus. The current prototype can also take the temperature of patients and recognize faces that are not covered in masks. The engineer is working on an updated version of the robot capable of taking nose swabs as well. That's going to do it for our nightly check-in. Before we sign off, check out a new episode of Insight. Our Investigates team sits down with Amari Johnson, who was at the center of a controversial police video that led to the La Mesa riots. Have a good night.